and welcome to the Momtivity Lounge podcast. I am Kinetra, Washington, and I'm your host. I'm the founder of the Momtivity Lounge, which is a global community in hopes to support moms across the globe so that we can have real discussions as we parent and raise our beautiful children. And today, the topic of our podcast is Motherhood Unfiltered. I have two beautiful guests with me today. I'm so glad you guys are here. So welcome.
Thank you.
So we have Taco Price, and we also have Chloe Betton is here. So I'm going to give you all an opportunity to introduce yourselves, just kind of share the dynamics of your family, and what is it about motherhood that you love most? Let's start there.
Well, I'll go first. I'm a blended family. We have a blended family. I have a 7-year-old daughter who, as me and my family always says, she's glued to me at the hip. In fact, every Halloween, we always say that our Halloween costume is we're going to be construction paper and glue, because everywhere I am, she is. So it's myself, my husband. We have a almost 23-year-old daughter who lives in New York. We have a 17-year-old son, and then we have the little 7-year-old at home.
Okay.
What I love about motherhood, the polarities, all the polarities involved, right? It's she stuck to me like glue. I love her to death. She's so cute, but it's also very complex at times too. And just navigating that, I think, kind of gives a sense of balance that you come to love, or maybe have a love to hate relationship.
Absolutely. Chloe.
Like Taco, I have a blended family. We have my bonus daughter, who's 20 years old, just finished her second year at University of Arkansas. And then we have an 8-year-old son. And we have a newly turned 5-year-old daughter, who's the boss of our family. And this has been the most interesting journey.
That's a great word for it, right?
Interesting. Yeah, interesting journey. For me, I say the thing that I love the most about motherhood is being able to see the world through the eyes of my children. It's so exciting to see them learning new things and experiencing new things, and I kind of get to do that all over with them, and they give me a different perspective, and I love it. So all my interaction with them, I'm always paying attention to them, and that's the most exciting thing to me.
Absolutely. Well, great. And for those of you who are just listening in for the first time, again, I'm Kinetra, and I'm a mom of 2. I have twins, and they are 8 years old, a boy and a girl. And when I tell you they keep me going, But motherhood for me, I guess the most exciting thing is that no day is the same. Like it's ever changing. Every day is different. And there is no playbook, right? So we get to do what we know to do every single day, and we get an opportunity to start fresh every day. And so, again, I'm so happy to have y'all. So we're going to have an organic conversation, and we're just going to sit here and just talk about the topic, Motherhood Unfiltered, and we'll see where it leads us. So, my first question, let's go ahead and just dive right in. So, what was the shift like from being a woman to being a mother in terms of your identity? Let's kind of talk about that.
We both looked at each other like, yeah, you want to go first? No. For me, I have a bonus daughter, and she was 8 or 9 when we got married. So that dynamic was a little different. I was nervous about being a stepmom, because that's a whole nother topic in itself, straddling that line. But when we had Ari, y'all, I was terrified to be responsible for this little human being. So I thought I had it all figured out, all planned, but my identity has completely changed because I am Ari and Kendall and Marlo's mom. So it's been a major, major shift for me. I had to slow down on my traveling. I'm one of those people. I had my first biological child at 36 and the second one at 39. So I'm an older mom, as they like to say. But it's been a shift, but it's been a good shift.
So did you feel like, though, Chloe, that you had a little bit of an opportunity to kind of get into it a little bit smoother, a little easier, because you are a stepmom? I would think that it would be a little bit.
So no. No, because like you said, there is no playbook. And we have this idea of, like, I can tell you this, like, before Ari was born, I was reading these books about making baby food, and I did that strongly for about
I
3
remember
months.
seeing that.
Yeah, you know, me posting, I'm growing stuff, and I was like, this is not
That's
not going nowhere. This playbook that I have, nothing is what I thought it would be. And, you know, you adapt, you adjust, and I don't think being a step parent makes it easier at all. And Taka might feel different.
Well, in fact, I think it makes it more complicated because as a stepmother, so my stepchildren, they are 22 and 17, and I've been a part of their life for over a decade. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe this will make it a little easier. But when I had my own daughter, I felt conflict. I felt like there was so much that you pour into your bonus children, and you care for them, you love them, you provide for them, you co-parent them, you instill a lot of your own morals and value system, right? Because they're a part of your household. And then when I had my own, I kind of shifted. Like so much more of my focus and energy was dedicated to her, and I started to feel guilty about that.
Oh yeah.
And I had to really think about, like, how do I hit the reset button? Is this normal? Is this natural? But then also along the way, it's making sure that my husband understood that, because he would recognize the shift, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so I think it made it a little bit more complicated if you are a step parent first, and then you have your own biological children, because now the whole family has to be reset, and you have to make sure that people understand it's not that I love my biological child more. She's just stuck to me at the hip. Just more, you know, just a natural. But I also recognize that, and I know that my bonus children, they love me. They recognize and appreciate my contribution to their life. But I think that there are also moments where they see that my biological daughter, that bond that we have, and sometimes I wonder how they process that, right? Maybe, absolutely. And they don't say it now, but maybe when I'm older and more gray, maybe they'll come around and we'll get a chance to talk about it. But I agree, it's complex. It adds a lot of value. It prepares you a little bit. But I think there's certainly a shift that happens once you have your own biological child, because now you've got to resort it through, right? You think you have it figured out, and then now you got to go back to the drawing board.
I think for me, and I've told this story before, I grew up without a mom. My mom passed away. Both my parents passed away when I was really young. And I was actually 5 when our dad died, and I was 8 when my mother died. And so growing up, you know, in the house with a grandfather who raised me, and then, you know, life was all about me. You know, it was all about me, what I wanted. It was kind of a different dynamics than most people experience, having a mother and father in the home. So when I was blessed with my 2 beautiful, amazing children, I realized it's no longer about me. It's about them. And so then I found myself at times overcompensating for what I didn't have. And even to this day, I'm like, am I crazy? What am I doing? Like you mentioned, you know, last week, what am I doing? I have way too much going on to put this kind of time in this one little thing with just one of my children. But we sometimes do that. So let me ask you, in terms of what life was like growing up, how has your life being raised by your parents, or whoever raised you, what's different in the way that you raise your own children?
Oh gosh, a lot's different. And Chloe and I are from the same hometown.
Yeah.
We know each other. We've known each other for pretty much all of our lives.
Yeah, for a very long time.
For a very long time. For me, it's very different. My daughter is 7. I now understand what people mean when they say, "Oh, she's been here before." I didn't understand that back, a while back. But she's very inquisitive. She's intellectually curious. She asks a lot of questions, and so my husband and I allow her that inquisition. We allow her to ask questions. My role as her mother is to help her understand when I just need you to do something, like do it.
Right.
But then also when it's okay to ask questions, because I understand she just wants to know the why.
Yeah.
growing up, there was no inquisition. It was do what I asked you to do because I said so, and you better hurry up and get it done because we've got. So I have a large family. I have 4 siblings, and my mom, I get it now. Like, she just didn't, like, who has time to answer questions from 5 children? Yeah. Pausing, waiting. Yes. Like, there were things that we just needed to, if we needed to get out of the house, she's like, do this, do that. And we didn't have the opportunity to always ask the questions of why. But even then, I feel like their generation probably found it to be disrespectful. Like, maybe we were pushing back. So I think that's one big difference. But it's exhausting. But why? But mommy? But why? But why? Well, what about this?
And they're just so cute.
And they're so cute about it. But it's just like, but I still need you to do it. Go and do what I asked you to do. Absolutely. And then come back and we'll talk about it. So I think that's a big difference in that we are raising our children to have the space, to have a voice. Yeah. We recognize that they're human beings. They're little human beings, big personalities. Yes. But there was a moment where I recognized I can't, how do I say it? Like, you think when you have a child, like, you get to, like, you maneuver, like, I'm going to tell them what to do, when to do it. But then you realize, like, whoa, this is a human being. Right. And they have their own brain and mind. And then you're like, okay, I need to pivot and figure out how to communicate with this personality type in order for us to move forward. So I think that's probably one of the things that come to mind first for me in terms of just like how I was raised versus how my daughter's allowed to really kind of operate. What about you, Chloe?
So my experience is a little different because my parents, I like to say they were hippies to some extent, and they always allowed us to voice our opinion. What we were told was, you can voice your opinion respectfully, and we can agree to disagree. My dad always told us, though, remember, this is not a democratic republic. This is a dictatorship. So you can tell me.
He's running things at the end of the day.
He would be like, you can tell me how you feel respectfully, why you disagree, but know that the decision lies with me and your mother. And I have a blended family through my parents and my stepmother. So, and that's a whole nother dynamic. But my parents, all 3 of them, co-parented tremendously in a way. Like, I like to think they were like the Jada and Will Smith and his wife back then. When I went to college, people were like, how long have your parents been married? I'm like, shh, don't say that. You know, they've been divorced for a very long time. But they gave us the opportunity to voice our opinion. I kind of don't agree with it, though.
You don't? Interesting.
That's because I think there should be some limitation, some structure, some guidance. Although I don't know how to say this, other than we had a healthy respect and a healthy fear of our parents. And I'm trying to learn how to create that with my own children. And so I don't want to be this stringent, like, militant person, you can't have an opinion, but I'm also trying to figure out, how do I create what they created? How do you duplicate that? And I think, we have to listen to them. Like Taco said, they're little people with big feelings and opinions, and having conversations with them. And when my son does something that we're not in agreement about and he's being punished, I always sit down, we talk to him and explain why this is the consequence of your action, because I want him to know. And I always tell him, everybody's not going to give you a why in life, but I want you to know why mommy and daddy are doing this. So I'm learning how to navigate it. That has impacted the way that I raise my children now. Trying to duplicate what my parents did with us, because Lord, we feared my mama
and you know what,
respected her.
And I don't see that, and I'm not saying as a whole, but I do notice that in this century, the kids that are growing up now, there is no fear.
Right.
There's no fear. And it kind of, to me, it goes back to family values. Like, we knew what our values were. We knew we were going to serve the Lord. We were going to serve the community. We were going to respect and love each other. And we were a family unit. Nobody's going to come between us, Right. So we knew that growing up, and just trying to figure out how to also make sure that my children, even though I do give them a voice, sometimes I'm like, but at the same time, it's like, how do we do that? How do we also go back to family values? It is different.
What I'm saying, when I say fear, I'm not talking about necessarily physical fear.
No, you're talking about really a level of respect.
Exactly. Exactly what you were saying. When I go outside the house, I know whose child I am, and
who you represent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you better not do this. So I just wanted to clarify that. I wasn't necessarily talking about physical fear, but there was that respect.
Yeah, interesting. Any other points that you guys want to add to that? Let's talk about family values, though, because I think that is really important as we raise our children. We all have children, although you all have adult children as well. We all have younger children who are the same age, and I've shared this story before too. During the pandemic, we had to take the twins to get their vaccine, and I remember my son. He was so frightened. Just because he doesn't like shot. I mean, what kid likes shot? Yeah. But he was so frightened. Yeah. And he whispered in my ear and said, Mommy, can I go to the bathroom and pray? Wow. And I said, absolutely you can. So then at that point, I was just filled with just emotion. And I felt like I'm doing a darn good job, because he knows who to rely on. Mommy really can't help you. You just need to go. You need to go to prayer. And just so, for me, I think it's important for them to have some type of values and know what those values are in our household, so then they can have something to reach for and connect with when they're in a situation where they need that support. And sometimes we can't be that for them. So do you all talk about family values with your children? And I'm sure there are some and they see it in our actions, but what would they be?
So it's interesting. I don't know if you all agree with this, but so my she'll be 7 next Saturday. And so if we think about 3.5 years ago, the pandemic began. So there's an interesting, I think for me, struggle trying to figure out, because there was a hard stop with church.
Oh, yeah.
And she went to church, but she was so small, right? And so then there was the pandemic, and we watched TV. We watched it on the iPad. And so then now when it was safe to go back, it's like, but I don't want to go. It's boring. Right? Because why can't we just watch it on the iPad again, right?
Right.
And so I think for me, trying to figure out, is it like, no, you're going, or is it, how do we find the right church environment that we all feel comfortable, that it makes sense. And again, I told you, the 7-year-old asks big questions. And so it's answering her big questions, but then also making sure that the answers are rooted in our value system, not necessarily value systems that we inherited from our grandparents or our parents, because they may be different, or we want to redefine those for our own household. So for instance, Mommy is we were riding down the street, and she's been having some issues with like sleeping at night and worrying and being afraid of things. And so we've been praying about it, and she says, Mommy, I don't think God is answering my prayers. And I said, well, why do you say that? She
I've
says,
heard that before.
Because every night I ask God to not let me dream about bad stuff, and every night I dream about bad stuff. So, like a true mom who's new at this with no playbook, I call grandmothers, I call grandparents, grandfathers, aunts, uncles, godparents, and I was like, can you answer this question? Because I've tried, but I don't know. It's not landing. So I think all of those things, we try to make sure, especially with our teenage son, he's 17, our 22-year-old, she's just graduated from college, she's in New York. And so it's, how do we make sure that they understand that family is core? Here are the things that we expect from you. We're raising you to be respectful, good citizens, responsible, but also to be anchored in something. Right. And what they're anchored in, our hope, our prayer, our goal is for them to be anchored in a higher power. So as you said with your son, it's, can I just have this moment? Not that he needed to announce it or to say it out loud, but he knows that lives within. And so that's one of the things that I'm trying to teach Emerson. But I think more importantly, we always go back to like, how do we model this? Right. Because they're watching. They're watching. They see the good. And
I think our responses teach them that.
It does.
But then what happens when they see us not? Because I'll be honest, I remember my grandfather, like I said, he raised us. He got on his knees every night, and he was on his knees forever. I'm like, you still on your knees? And prayer for me has been different in my adult life. And I could probably honestly count the number of times that I have literally like been on my knees praying, and my children witnessed that. So so when we do fall short, because we're tired.
Yeah.
You know, like how do we go back and have that conversation with them later? Do we occasionally bring it up and say, hey, you know, I want you to know this, and that?
Yeah.
But I think that's why the village is important too.
I love that.
And the reason I say that is because I'm like you. It's like Emerson, she will start praying and she'll thank God for her toys, for the curtains, for, you know, for the people who don't have homes.
Right.
She wants them very solid things for her to be 7, right? But then when she then it transitions into stalling because she doesn't want to go to sleep, and now we're thanking God for like you know like
obscure stuff.
Doc McStuffins and you know all those things. But there are times where if she is just, I'm like, okay, it's time to get into bed and say your prayers, right? Because I know if I get down and we have to kneel down, we're going to be here for like 15 minutes. So, but there are times where if she goes to visit her grandparents, if she comes back from her aunt's house, she will call me out. Like, no, Granny said that we're supposed to get on our knees and bow our head and say our prayers, right? So I think the village is also important, but I don't know if the village understands how important they are and how
That's
much
a
we
good
need
point.
them because everybody's busy, right? And it's like, no, this is why it's important because we're new. I mean, this is our first go at it,
It is.
right? And I think that that's important because she'll say, "Mommy, do you pray for me?" And I tell her, "Sweetheart, I pray for you all day long." So what do you ask God about? What do you talk to God about for me? And then I run down the list, right? And she's like, okay. But for me, it's making sure she understands that I'm praying for her, and I am from the time I wake up until the time she goes to bed. When you're sleeping, I come in, I peek through the door, and I'm whispering prayers to God for you,
Absolutely,
right? So I think that's a part of it too. But I think the village is important because you know, answering questions about, Mommy, why do angels have halos? I was like, okay, where's the village?
Yeah,
Where's the
Somebody
village?
help
that's a big one.
Right.
I think though, because of the way that we were raised, we think of prayer and religion a little different. So with Ari, since 4 years old, we have this little mantra we say every day. I can literally yell from across the room and say, Ari B, what are you? And he goes, Mommy, I'm kind, I'm strong, I'm smart, and I can do anything. We've been saying it every day. And I always tell him, in everything you do, lead with kindness. Because that will guide you to everything that your heart desires. You will always treat people with respect and compassion. Your actions will be in the purest sense possible. And we talk about, you know, we do prayer. He's just laying in the bed. But I always tell him, and my father-in-law is a pastor, and we have had some conversations, and Ari picks up on these about, you can be praying when you are driving. Literally. In the shower, in the kitchen, because I can remember seeing my grandmother walking in the kitchen. I'm like, who's she talking to?
Pacing, back and forth, rocking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we've taught him, I don't care where you are, who you're with, if you know that you need to call on God, I don't care where you are. You don't have to drop to your knees. God is always there. You serve a living God, and you can do it anywhere that you are. So we try and model that for him and show that, because I know he's like, Mama's crazy, she's in the car, but he knows I can pray anywhere that I am. My way of praying may not look the same as the next person, but in my speech and in my heart and my actions,
in a personal relationship,
right? So that's kind of what we teach. And try to impart upon all of our children. I don't, know how it's working, but I think they're awesome kids, and I think that they're kind and compassionate people that really, really care about other people. And to me, that's the most important thing. I think if you lead with love and kindness, you cannot go wrong.
Absolutely. And it's pleasing to him. But it sticks. Like what we do, even though it seems like it doesn't, it does stick. They'll eventually come back to it, just like we have at almost 50.
Yes.
Y'all believe we are approaching like just the... Look at Taco. She's trying to pretend she's not too close to it.
But somebody said the other day, like, we're middle-aged. I was like, you're middle-aged.
That blows my mind.
It does.
Oh my God.
God is good though, because I always thought 40 was old, and here I am like on the other side of 40. So those are some internal things that we have some sort of control over. But what about external factors like society? Like what role has so far, let's just talk about that with our young children, how society plays a role in the upbringing of our children.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't it stressful, y'all? It's just stressful.
So you want to try and protect them from so many things, and you
Yeah.
want them to be exposed to things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so, oh my gosh, with iPads and even their peers. An example, Ari's been at a zoo camp.
Okay.
This week he came home to me. When I picked him up, he said, "Mom, did you know that in Afghanistan, it's against the law and you'll be killed for being gay?" And I said, "Who are you talking to?" Because this was I've never heard him say that. And he was like, "Oh, we were just talking about it." I said, "So somebody presented this to you?" He was like, "Yeah, and they, that's what they said is true." And I was like, wow. And then my mind goes, I said, "Ari, do you know what it means to be gay?" And he was like, "No."
Yeah.
And I got tickled.
That's just so innocent, aren't they?
Yeah. So in that moment, I said, being gay is when a man and a man or a woman and a woman love each other like mommy and daddy do. And he was like, "Oh,
Okay.
okay."
Mm-hmm.
And then I proceeded to ask him, I said, "Well, do you feel like, their rules or laws are bad?"
Mm-hmm.
And this is the mind of a child, because I had a conversation with my husband about it. He said, "Well, no, I don't, because you have to follow people's rules, but I don't think it's nice, and I would just leave if I were gay." And I left it at that, but I told him, I said, when somebody presents something to you that
Come
you
to
don't
me,
know
yes.
or understand, come to mama, come to daddy. Let me explain to you what you're hearing. I said, because you were just telling me something and you don't even know what you're really telling me. So, you navigate that,
Yes.
social media, and I was like, what are y'all talking about?
I know. Don't you feel like sometimes you are, like for me, the kids, now they have, activities where we began dropping them off. Kind of,
Yes.
sort of. Like
Yes.
gymnastics. Demi's been there a couple years, but so I feel comfortable. But it's like, on the way to whatever activity is, I'm like going off the deep end. I'm like, don't look at nobody's phone.
Yes.
Don't make sure you're going in the bathroom alone. Make sure the door is locked. Nobody's to touch your body. I mean, it's like so much. And I feel like sometimes it's so unfair to them to put that much pressure on them. But, you just feel the weight of the world and all of the things that are happening right now. It's like, well, what if I had just reminded them? Then maybe they would have responded differently. And so, I don't know if it's right or wrong. That's just kind of how I'm having a parent right now, so that I can sleep at night. I'm like, they know because I just told them. So how do y'all deal with that? And it's not often that they get dropped off. But
Emerson, she's just turning 7, and she's such a and one of the things that I am really focusing on is how to create the space for her to just be her. Emerson has big emotions. If she's happy, it's big. If she's sad, it's big. If she's scared, it's big. If she's worried, it's big. And that's not my personality type, right? And so I'm always trying to figure out just how to allow her the space to just have these big reactions and responses to things. And so I think when I'm trying to prepare her, because that's what you're speaking about. You're saying I just want to make sure that they're prepared,
that's right.
and that they recognize that all people are not good. All people are not factual. All the things that you're going to be exposed to. You may be on the iPad, but that doesn't mean that that's an 8-year-old. That could be a 48-year-old. And so we're just trying to prepare them. But sometimes when I'm going through that list too, I see like tears. Like I see her like
it's too heavy for her.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh gosh,
it's a lot of pressure.
I don't want to traumatize her. So let me
pressure.
but I want to. So I've got to continue to work on finding that balance to make sure that she grows up prepared. That she's such a kind, gentle spirit. She's very trusting, and she's if she's the kind of child that if you cry, she's gonna cry because she's sad for you, right? And then later she'll say like, "Mommy, that made me feel so sad that Miss Kinetra was crying." So it's balancing that, but it's also trying to make sure that she understands that there's good people, and mommy's going to try. Mommy and daddy are going to try their best to surround you with those
good people. Yeah.
But there are not so good people at school, and so here are the rules of engagement. And so she's growing up. It's difficult. I think to feel like you know how to prepare them without like scaring the daylights out of them too, and trying to figure out what's too soon for what messaging.
Yeah.
And it's
because it's happening fast, and so if we don't
it's
get in
happening
front
fast.
of it early,
You
fast.
do have to get in
You
front.
know?
And also, I think it depends on the child. Like, we know our
Yeah.
children.
Right.
Like, for mine, I have a boy and a girl,
Yeah.
and they're two totally different children with different personalities, and they process things differently.
Right.
For one, I can just lay it to them straight. I'm like, this, and this. The other one, I have to kind of, carefully explain what's going on. But one of them will stay up all night worried about it, so it's kind of like knowing your children too.
Yeah.
But were you going to add something, Chloe?
Oh, it stresses me out personally.
Yeah.
Like, it hurts me to think about the stuff that they have to endure, and I'm like, oh my God, y'all, it literally stresses me out to always trying to prepare our children. Like, you both know this, both of our the youngest children are on the spectrum. One is what they consider vocal, nonverbal, and then there's Ari, who is I'm laughing because he's a very black and white person, sees the world in a very black and white way. There isn't any gray, and so we've been trying to teach him how to regulate his emotional response. Like, he's very sensitive to people raising their voices at him, and he takes it to heart, and he might fidget. And I remember when all of the stuff was going on in Minneapolis, and I was thinking, I told Alex, I had like this breakdown, y'all, because I was thinking, I said, what if Ari is a teenager driving a car and a police officer stops him and he hears this screaming and these sirens and these lights? Are they going to overstimulate him? Is he going to know how to sit still, or is he going to cry? Is he going to fidget? So all of that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh my God. And Alex is like, we'll pray about it. We'll do our part. Try to prepare him for situations like this. And so these are things that I talk to an 8-year-old little boy about. Like, don't run. Be still.
Isn't it something we have to have these?
We do.
Yeah.
I dropped DJ off I was sitting in the car, but took him in, and he was going to take his backpacking in because he has asthma. And I'm like, you doing all this ripping and running. You make sure you have your inhaler just in case. Do you know what this child said to me? He said, Mama, I probably shouldn't take my backpack because I don't want them to think that I have a weapon.
Oh my goodness.
And, I have to own that because we've had these types of conversations with them, and their dad is very, blunt. He does not sugarcoat because that's how his dad raised he and his 3 brothers. And so we have real honest conversations with our young children. It won't be because they weren't told.
Yeah.
Right.
Because they're getting it at home. But just for him to, I didn't even,
reality.
I know, that's the reality. So it is so heartbreaking.
It is.
I think I've heard somebody refer to it as parental paranoia. I have never been. I'm normally just this real chill, laid back personality. I like not too high, not too low.
Yeah.
But since I've become a mom, I am worried all the time. I feel like I'm always on edge all the time. I'm the mom that it's like, oh no, I'm not dropping her off. I'll just sit out here on the parking lot.
Sit in the car.
I could be doing other things.
Yeah.
But or if I do, I'm walking in the building and I'm like, okay, there's a door. I want to make sure I know if there's one way in and one way out, because I want to make sure nobody can come in here and snatch my kid.
Right.
Exactly.
Why am I carrying this every day? She'll be fine.
But then you just never know.
Yeah.
And then to take it a step further, I know you do this, Taco. Make sure you know and introduce yourself to every adult in there. You're like, I'm Demi and Derek's mom. Here's my number. They know to come to you. And then another thing is back in the day, we trusted adults. We trusted everybody at church. Watch the kids. I'm gonna go to the bathroom. I'm gonna usher today. So just keep an eye on the, that's how they were for us. But now, I have to tell my children, all adults aren't good people. You listen to what they say. We're training you. We're teaching you. And you have to use your brain. You have to process things on your own. And that's another thing, is just trying to make sure that, and we all do this because we're all great moms. We want to equip our children with making good decisions.
Right.
And it starts young, very young, and have them process things.
Yeah, we've taught all of our children, you know how family people will be like, oh, give such and such a hug. I don't do that with my children. I've never done that. I always tell all of my children, you have autonomy over your body. Just because you know somebody, you don't have to hug them. If you don't want somebody to touch you, don't feel obligated, because some adults say, oh, that's cousin such and such. No, we don't know them. And it's, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but my children can be standoffish initially, and they're trying to read a person and gauge the relationship that I have with them. And, like Marlo's like, she's
smart. And they know, they can recognize the energy.
Anything wrong with
it's
that.
nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to tell you, I get a little bit shamed sometimes. When it's somebody that I know that's good people, like I'm not going to name anybody, but somebody that is in there and you love them and you know they love your children and they're praying with you over your children. And my kid is looking at them like, don't touch me. I'm like,
that goes back to what I was saying about, like, they have their own, like, they're human. They're little humans, right?
Yeah.
But they have their own spirit of discernment too, right? Emerson is, she leans naturally shy. But my husband is what I call an extrovert introvert. Like, if he
ambivert,
yeah. And so he has to, like, if he comes into the room, he'll catch the vibe, and if you're cool, he's fine. Emerson's the same way. And so it's okay for her, if she doesn't have a relationship, she watches me.
Yeah.
If she picks up on my energy, then she's fine.
Yeah.
But also, if it's kind of like, she'll stand back in the corner, or she'll watch, and she'll make her own observations and her own decisions around. And that's with family members too.
Yeah.
Because we have some family members that have bad energy.
right. Just
because it's family. And but again, sometimes you walk away thinking like, they're gonna think my child is whatever, bougie, standoffish, whatever.
Yeah,
but
it is what it is.
I picked up on that. She has her own, and I don't coach her into it. But I agree with you in that, especially, we used to always think about it as being like, we need to protect our girls, but we need to do the same for our boys as well, and make sure that we're not missing opportunities to talk to them about, who to engage with, how somebody should engage with you, how to set boundaries with people, which is difficult for my child because she's a kind-spirited little girl and she wants people to like her. And I'm like, set a boundary. And there's this fun video on YouTube. I'm not going to sing it because I'm not a singer, but it basically says like, please stop, I don't like that, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I need more space, not around me. It's just a boundary, right? So it's the song is basically saying like, I'm setting a boundary, and it's not about you getting upset with me because I said stop, I don't like that, or you're too close to me, you're in my personal space. I'm just setting a boundary. So like, and I think when we talk about it, it's about like, don't let anyone make you feel bad or sad or uncomfortable because you said no.
And that goes for their peers.
That's right. Their peers, their teachers.
You don't have to share everything. There are some things you can share. You can be kind, but if it's your favorite thing,
you can offer them something else.
Right? Yeah.
If you're playing with this, offer something else.
And that's boundary setting. But gosh, like, what I always think about motherhood is interesting, or parenthood too, is like, I don't know if you all felt like this, but before we became parents, I saw it as like this, like the big picture, like the macro stuff, right? Like, okay, food, clothing, shelter, water, make sure they have a good school to go to, make sure they're polite. That's the big stuff. Yeah. But oh my gosh, the micro stuff.
The minute
Let me give you language for this. How do I teach her how to be brave? How do I teach her how to be fearless? I'm like, oh, I wasn't prepared for the micro parenting. I thought I had a handle on like the big stuff, right? The big, this is what everybody thinks, or what everybody, what everybody puts on social media. But the micro stuff, those small details, like they're not just born into the world knowing how to navigate all of these things. It's not just about, like, I can teach you how to ride your bike, right? But I have to think about how to teach you how to be fearless when you fall off and you got to get back on it, because it did hurt. Yeah. And you are embarrassed. Yeah. And I gotta make sure you process that and move forward.
Feel like and try
and get up and try again. So those are the things I'm like, oh, okay, I need to. Is there a book for this?
And that's a good point, Taco, because I think about, that's where parenting really comes. That's really parenting.
That's parenting.
It's kind of like the father versus the daddy. It's like, that is when a day goes by and you haven't had a teaching moment, something's going on in my household, because it seems as if everything is a teaching moment, and it's so much deeper than what I put on social media. Like, it's the conversations that we have at night. It's the crying, it's the weep, it's the, making sure they have the confidence to get up and try again, and knowing that this is a safe place. Like, this is your safe place that mom and dad has created for you. And this is where we can address whatever you're going through. So, very good point. Were you going to say something? Yeah.
No. I'm just agreeing with you.
Yes.
I'm agreeing with you.
So let's talk about regrets. I know mom guilt is like, that's one of my struggles. I do stuff all the time.
Where's the Bible now?
Let me say, I do that all the time. I'm like, I did this. Why did I do that? Why did I say that? And then feel so heavy and burdened. But then we have an opportunity, right, the next day to try to get it right. Because there is no book. There is no book. So let's talk about mom guilt, regrets. What regrets have you all had in terms of your motherhood journey?
I'm a strong believer that time is the greatest commodity that we have.
Yes, I agree.
That's the greatest thing we have. I feel guilty often, like maybe I'm not utilizing the time that I have properly with my children. Like, maybe I shouldn't have done this and done this instead with my child. Or this moment that I'm actually taking a break for myself, maybe I should be in there reading a book with Ari. Or, that type of regret is what I have. Like, am I actually utilizing the time that we have together at this point in our lives, and it's being valuable, and I'm actually putting something into my children, pouring something into them. So the usage of my time is really just a regret that I struggle with, and trying to figure out how not to completely lose myself, because I have lost myself, and I'm coming out of
I'm still a little lost.
Myself.
I'm lost.
I'm a little lost right now.
So I've lost myself with my just who I am has completely been defined by my children for so many years. And now trying to, about to be 45, like, I remember that woman, I remember her, but I still want to be mom. And so that's like a big regret that I have, that I'm working on and through, I should say.
Yeah.
So,
Chloe, I look in the mirror some days and I'm like,
who is that?
Yes. Whose life are you living?
Right.
Like, who is this? Because I think, to your point, it's, gosh, I remember like traveling and just being so so carefree. I remember in my mind, I know how I want my house to look, but these people won't let me be great. Like, they won't let me have white furniture and like white walls and nice stuff.
Oh yeah.
So I understand that. I think for me, I think it's the time thing. I think for me, I feel guilty that I get frustrated with myself because I have lost myself. And I shouldn't, because like, she is deserving of, and she's just as cute as she wants to be, right? She's so fun. But there are times where it's like, I have my own dreams, because we talk about them. There are so many things. I'm a creative person. I like to create things. I like to, and it's just like, I feel guilty that I get frustrated. Not frustrated at her or the family. I'm frustrated with myself because I show up for everybody else, but I don't show up for myself.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm trying to figure out, what does that look like as a mother, and I have a fantastic husband who works really hard. He provides for us, but if and he will tell you, like, I move the household forward. Like, things don't move unless I move them, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. And so it's like, how do you reclaim your time and reclaim who you are especially at this point in our, like, I literally the other day, like, I walked in my closet, I was like, none of this works anymore. Right?
I love it.
I donated it all. Like, now it's like, if I need a white shirt, I'll buy a new one that at this age works for me, right? And so it's just trying to not feel guilty about redefining myself as woman, and letting go of, like, who I call young T. Because if you've known me for a long time, like, young Taco, I thought she was just so fabulous, and she was so fun, and she was so innovative.
Can still be that, yeah.
But being okay with letting her go, in a sense, but then also reconnecting with the things that are important to me, and not feeling bad about saying, like, no, we're gonna 2 activities this time around, not 4, because
Yeah.
on those 2 days I want to do something. So for
Yeah, you've
instance,
been doing good with that.
didn't learn how to swim as a child. So this year I was like, I'm setting a personal goal to learn how to swim. If you have never been uncomfortable as an adult, learn how to swim in a swimming pool for little kids who do, right? And so, but that was something that I did for
What are
me.
you talking about that?
But even then, like
Yeah.
initially I was like, I feel guilty, I should be doing this or that. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, I don't compromise on that. So if I can continue to do that,
Just small
and set
bites.
those
Just take things
yep.
in small pieces.
Y'all,
Yeah.
like 3 weeks ago, and I've been talking for a couple of months about going to Brazil. And my husband's like, you got a babysitter, your husband. Why aren't you going? And I just kept talking about it, looking at it. And so 3 weeks ago, I finally just hit the button. I was like, I'm taking myself to Brazil for my 45th birthday in January. And I have not done something like that for myself in a long time. I started Pilates a month and a half ago. Just trying to, like you said, reclaim who I am while I'm still their mom, but I'm still Chloe too. So
Yeah. What about you?
Such a juggle.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it's a little bit similar to what you were saying. I feel mostly guilty about not modeling the behavior I want to see in her. Like, I am building, my goal is to build a strong, brave, kind, kids.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking about Demi right now. And sometimes as a woman, I feel like I'm just not living up to the expectation that I want her. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm not modeling everything that I want to see in her. And so that is heavy.
I think you're being hard on yourself.
I am being hard on myself.
Because you model a lot of, I think you're being really
Crazy.
hard.
I'm modeling running crazy. And I want to model, this is mommy's time. Yes, that's what I want to model. I want to model, oh, mommy.
But is that real, is the question.
That's a good question.
I think the
I'm
balance, though, is important.
And I wonder if and I think because I can't find that balance is because I haven't opened my mouth and told and said this to my husband. Listen, I'm going to take these days or this time to do what I need to do for me, because he will fully support that, because he supports all my crazy
Why
ideas.
don't we though? Because
and that is my problem. I take on everything, and then I have little left for me.
Yeah.
And I don't want her to, because she said to me, Mom, you're just always tired. And I'm like, I am always tired because I'm running you and your brother around,
Right.
which is not really fair. I want her to see me thriving. With the Momtivity Lounge, I will say, she occasionally will say, Mom, I haven't heard you talk about the Momtivity Lounge. Or, Mom, you used to get on every Thursday night. What happened? And so I think those are the things that are really important, is just making sure that they see that, life does not revolve around others. You have to first take care of yourself so I can take care of them. So that's my mom guilt.
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
I know it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
It sounds
Yeah.
good, but don't if you can figure it
Yeah.
out.
And I will add this, having a boy and a girl, same age, sometimes I feel like I'm giving her more than I'm giving him. Just because I don't identify with boys. You know what I mean? Like, I'm mom to both of them.
Yeah.
But I understand, she needs to make sure she is clean and she has a petty and a mani, and she needs to, how to respond in these situations and act like a lady and make sure your legs are crossed at the ankles and things like that. But for him, I'm like, well, I don't know what to do with you. That's where your daddy gonna come in. So I do feel some guilt there too. Just trying to raise a boy and a girl. In this
There are
world.
times that I feel guilty too, because Emerson is my only biological child. There's so much of an age difference between her and her siblings. And I was what they referred to me as a geriatric. I had a geriatric pregnancy. Okay.
I know.
And sometimes I feel, and I say this like with hesitance.
Okay.
But now that she's 7, I do feel guilty sometimes that she doesn't have a sibling in her age range, because it's me and her all the time. And she's like, can we have a play date with this person? And I'm running out of play dates to schedule, right? And so I get how people would have more than one child and maybe close in age, so that and for me, I have 4 siblings and we're very close.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel guilty. I waited to
No, you didn't. It was.
I was 36. I was 37 when I had her. I was like, nah, well, not gonna do that again. But I get it, and I do look at her now as she's gotten older, and she's so active, and she's so creative and wants to do all these things. And I'm like, it would be helpful if she had a little brother or sister.
But I think that's when that
maybe
that
I need to get her a
village that
pet.
you talked
Do I need to
about,
get a pet?
that
Yeah.
village, you know, I've got cousins and friends that have children, so I think that village is pivotal in a situation like that.
I need to tap in more, so I'm not feeling so good because nothing I can do. I can't help her with
At all.
But maybe the village is where I tap in.
Yeah, drop her off with Demi. They'll have a good time.
I know.
So as far as being a mom, motherhood, we all know we play a pivotal role in society. I feel like, and then especially like with things like this, like having conversations, podcasts, you know, having time, you know, Mother's Day out where moms can sit down and talk. I think there is so much power in storytelling. And I say that because I'm thinking about, we're experiencing like a major maternal health crisis right now.
Yes,
we know that.
yes.
I think there should be maternal leave or really parental leave across the board.
Yeah.
There's so many things that we have really going against us, and I think if we spent more time talking about the real that we deal with and finding ways to take it up. I know both of you have done a lot of work in the government and legislative. Can you talk a little bit about that, what we can do as moms to help move some of these policies forward, because it's impacting us?
Yeah. I think, you know, we talk about political advocacy and efficacy. A lot of time, there's this, I can't remember who said it, but, you know, you may not have an interest in politics, but politics will play an interest in you. It was some Greek philosopher.
Yes.
And I always tell people, I don't want to deal with this stuff. I don't care about it. But guess what? It's going to care about you and impact you.
Yeah.
I think people need to become engaged on a local level. And engaged to me means finding out who your state representative is, your congressional member, because the things that you're talking about, those are the people that make the difference on the state and the congressional level. Finding out who those people are, engaging with them, paying attention during the legislative session.
Oh, yeah.
Paying attention when Congress is in session, and contacting them, speaking up. We move with money and our voice. If there's a candidate that you believe in and you're engaging with, donate to that candidate. I don't care if it's $10.
Right.
That $10 adds up. Hold people accountable, because from my work, I can tell you this: people move based, and I hate to say this, but this is true, and Taco will agree. People move based upon money and how folks vote.
Oh,
I always
yeah.
say, if you want to know the interest of someone in politics, go look at that, who's donated to their campaign, and that's going to be the thing that they care about.
Absolutely.
And if we make enough noise and we're in the faces of these people, they have no other choice but to act. And if there's something that we're passionate about, contact your legislator and say, hey, I want you to sponsor this bill. And they will sit down, and then Bureau of Legislative Research will work on this bill if they want to put it on the floor. So just being engaged and paying attention and making noise to me is what we can do, and stay on their necks.
And it's okay not to know. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yes.
Is sometimes people don't know how to start these conversations.
Right.
They don't know where to start. Just ask.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and figure out who
Don't
you
be
can
afraid
call.
to
Yeah,
ask.
don't be afraid to do some research and ask. So we are nearing the end of our podcast, y'all. This has been so great. There's a couple other things that I want to talk about with Motherhood Unfiltered, and we know this could go on and on and on, and I suspect that we'll have more opportunities to engage on this very topic, because it was pretty surface today. We want to get real deep. We want to get real deep. But I want to ask you, how do you honor yourselves as moms? At the end of the day, I'm not talking a petty manny. I'm talking about, how do you actually honor yourself, Chloe, as the mom of those children? How do you honor yourself, Taco? Deeply honor yourself as the mom of your children.
I don't, if I can be honest. And I think that's what I struggle with. I think it's whatever I think I'm doing to honor myself is still rooted in
Someone
her.
else, yeah.
Still rooted in. And so I think, recognizing that you're proud of how you raise your children, that you're thankful for them. Those are all great things, and it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. But at the core of it, that's still not honoring myself. Right. Making sure that looking at, like, okay, my household is good, everybody's solid. I don't know that I'm doing a great job of that, but I think that goes back to me saying, okay, I need to redefine it. I need to stop. I need to sift through that guilt. I need to say, you know what, I'm hands off. From this time to this time. Even last night, I disappeared in like my little hiding spot. I heard Emerson like, "Mommy, where's Mommy? Daddy, where's Mommy?" And she's like, "Mommy, where were you?" I said, "In my hiding spot." She's like, "Well, where is it?" I can't tell you.
It's a hiding spot.
I can't tell you. It's a secret place. I can't tell you. But I think, finding more time, I think, to do those things that I've talked about. Starting the businesses that I've had concepted on paper for 3 to 5 years. I think wellness is important. I can't say, you said it better than anybody could have said it just now, but what I recognize is that a lot of mothers are not well. We are not well. Our emotional wellness is always being compromised. Our mental wellness is being compromised. And some of that's going to be chronic for some people, and some of it is intermittent, right, and situational. And I think trying to answer that question and trying to make that a priority will help us get in front of that. So to be very honest, I don't know that I don't know that I do that, and I don't know that I gosh, sometimes it gets so much I don't even know if I'd see the pathway towards that. Right. So if that's just me being honest, I don't think I have that figured out yet.
I don't know. I guess I agree with Taco in so many ways. I don't know if I've figured out how to honor myself. I'm slowly doing that and being selfish, if that makes sense. And it's been a difficult thing to do, and to not punish myself, but being selfish and choosing myself over the people that I would give my life for. But I recognize that if I don't take care of Chloe, I will lose my mind. My mental will deteriorate, my physical will deteriorate, and just choosing myself in some instances it's being hard, but I know there are things that make me so happy, like the traveling. Tacos.
Can I go to Brazil with you?
I can.
Listen, let's go.
Brazil, come to Rio. So just doing stuff like going to Pilates, for me, y'all, that's a big deal, because I spend a lot of time, work, therapy, all kinds of stuff, and just saying, okay, I'm doing this for me. It's for nobody else, and I'm working on it. I'm not completely there, but I'm taking baby steps. And I felt like, being middle-aged, I'm at the second half. I'm not looking back and really gonna just dwell on what I should have and could have. I want to make those things reality.
So I asked you all that question. I'm sitting here thinking, like, how do I honor myself? And that's yet to be determined. I will say there are times where I give myself permission to do me. Like today, I'm doing me. I'm doing something that I love. Motherhood is my life. It really is. But in addition to that, I could just say that I still got work to do. Like, I still have work to do. And I do want to set a great example for my children. And right now, I don't think that I'm to that point. But, we have tomorrow. That's what I always tell myself. Start over. We have tomorrow.
It's the most thankless, overlooked thing that we will do, but it is the most rewarding thing.
It is so rewarding.
It's such a dichotomy.
It is.
It's because you see it every day in your children and the people that they're becoming. So it seems tough, and it is tough, but then you look and you go, wow, I had something to do with that awesome little person.
I know.
And it makes you just like, it's worth it.
And we're awesome moms. I mean, we all pour into our children.
We do.
And at the end of the day, as long as we're doing that, then we've done our job, because we don't know what we don't know. And other moms out there listening, you don't know what you don't know. And so you have to give yourself permission to just work through the things day by day. Surround yourself with a village. We talked about a village. A village is so incredibly important. You want people to pour into not only your children, but you as well. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to be able to talk to these beautiful mamas who are raising these outstanding children. And if you are not following the Momtivity Lounge, go ahead. We are on Facebook. We're on Instagram, themomtivitylounge.com. I would love to have you come and sit around and talk to us. If you're interested, be sure to send us an email at info@themomtivitylounge.com. So thank you all so much for listening. Thank you, Taco Price, for being here. Thank you, Chloe Crater Betton, for being here. And it's just been a phenomenal discussion. I appreciate y'all so much. This was so fun.
Thank you.
So thank y'all so much. Thank you.